Hello friends, today I would like to share a critical position which is a strategy exercise for advanced players. You can pause the video and think what would you play here if you had to play with the black pieces. It looks like some sort of King's Indian pawn structure where the first impression is that position is roughly balanced. White has an optical space advantage in the center because of the pawn being on d5, but whether white can take advantage of it by having better pieces is still a question. Black has a very beautiful knight on c5, which is safely protected by the pawn on a5, which prevents white's b pawn from kicking the knight out. Perhaps in the future, white can play knight c1, knight d3 and exchange this amazing knight of white. On the other hand, white does not want to exchange pieces as he has more space. Most importantly, we have to remember that in the positions with close center, play must be moved to the wing. Queenside seems to be locked, so both players would love to get an advantage on the king side. Perhaps whoever wins the king side wins the game, as there is no counterplay on the other sides of the board. And so, black plays the best move here, which is g5, creating initiative on the king side. White plays bishop to g3, and here comes h5. Now, black is threatening to trap the bishop on the square g3. White plays h4, which now creates room for the bishop to draw back, as well as stopping black from playing h4. Now, if white was to play h3, here black has quite a few good moves. Black would be waiting with knight to g6, where the knight is trying to occupy important square on f4. Pawn could also go to h4 to maintain space advantage. We could even play g4. So for example, say h4, and white plays bishop h2. That's the only available square for the bishop. Here we go g4, and black's attack on the king side starts. For example, takes, and here moves like h3, moves like knight g6, and black's army is occupying the king side. As you can see, black has an easier way of maneuvering the army to the king side. Black also hasn't committed to maintaining the king on the king side, so who knows, maybe we'll castle queen side, right? King side, after all, is opened, and only white's king seems to be in danger over there. Instead, in our game, white played h4, black played g4 right now, and wins space advantage on the king side. We're clearly restricting the knight on f3. Here, if white went knight g5, which is a little bit more ambitious, black would at the very least play f6, and here we can win the pawn after knight e6 and takes. Instead, after g4, white had to go knight h2, and black has very easy development, knight to g6, and we're simply terrorizing and pressuring h4. Black has already a winning position, or close to a winning position. So in the game, white tried to create some counterplay of his own on the king side and play f4. Black took en passant, knight takes f3, and after bishop f6 soon in the game, the h4 pawn fall, and white soon resigned the game. Instead, if you were curious, in the starting position, castling is not good, as white cannot prepare against this expansion with g5 of black's. For example, moving the knight to d2 with two ideas. First of all, we want to play f3, and the bishop could now go back to f2, which is a better square. And second of all, if black plays the pawn move to g5, there's always this f5 square that has been weakened. So in some instances, we can actually get or threaten to get the knight onto that square f5. So for example, black plays g5, bishop to g3, and h5 is one of the ideas. Perhaps f5 is an alternative, but again, we can see that white is probably winning the square of e4, and I think white chances are roughly balanced. That's a really nice outpost. And instead, if black was to play similarly as in the game with h5, here white can play f3, say h4, which is a questionable move, and after bishop f2, knight g6, and something like h3, there is not seem to be an initiative for black on the king side. White can simply follow with ideas of, say, knight f1, knight e3, where knight is aiming at amazingly weakened squares g4 and f5. The other pony could actually, if we choose to, get to d3 and swap this knight of black's. I hope to enjoy this short video lesson. If you did, please do subscribe to my channel. You can also consider hiring me as your personal chess coach. That's my full-time job. See you in the next video and wish you a wonderful day.